Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tag Podcast Season 2, Episode 17. We are now on all streaming platforms, so wherever you get your podcasts, you can now find us. We are on Amazon Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify, which we've always been on. But it's going to be just a normal, everyday podcast today. It's going to be going over the game-by-game recap, then our PickEms from last week. Then we are going to revisit some of the bold predictions and breakout players, division leaders, our awards predictions from the beginning of the year. Basically, the episode 0 stuff that we did. And we're just going to go through those and see how off base we were, or how spot on in some cases. And yeah, it's going to be kind of a quick podcast. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, and Happy Toyotathon to those who don't. And we can kick it off with Thursday Night Football if you would like to.
Yeah, the Broncos-Chargers game, it started off very heavily. The Broncos are very effective. They're moving down the field. They are, doing what I thought they were going to come into this game and do. And then the second half rolled around and the Chargers just seemed to have an answer for most of everything the Broncos tried to do. Really got themselves back into that game. I don't have a lot to touch on in this game because it was truly just it was everything I expected it to be, and then just nothing I expected it to be. And I think that the offense is definitely predictable. We've never said that it isn't. There's
I can throw the passing chart up on the screen if you want me to. It's a Sean Payton offense. It's a Bo Nix offense. It's exactly what we expect from them. But it gets to a point when it's like, okay, you haven't thrown a pass 20 yards downfield this game. Like, you didn't throw one. Mm-hmm. So, I think he threw an incompletion downfield. But
he didn't complete
He hasn't completed a pass over 15 yards through the air. Like, that's a problem, right? Like, it gets to a point where you can't dink and dunk your way to wins in games against, I'm not saying the Chargers are bad by any means. They're a good team. But if you're not going to beat the Chargers with your offense performing to the best of its ability, because that's what I feel that this game is the Sean Payton offense, the Bo Nix offense operating at close to peak efficiency. Like, that is what they want to run. If they were able to script up a game, that is what it would look like. And if you're not able to beat a, wild card team with that,
a fringe playoff team, then
maybe it's time to do some reflecting and see if there's some better options for you than constant dinking and dunking. Because it's not like Bo Nix can't throw downfield, and it's not like Sean Payton can't scheme up downfield plays. It's just that they've both been doing it for so long. Sean Payton, because Drew Brees' arm wasn't great towards the end of his career, and Bo Nix, because that's just what he did in college. But there needs to be some sort of changes to get them to a point of being a more effective offense.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of things, with how the Chargers played, and I think you're leaving this game as a Chargers fan feeling like, okay, the Broncos, another fringe wild card team, but you were able to start without it looking so good, and then make it to where you ended up with the win. So I think the end result here is okay, Broncos fans, you know what you are, so it's not like this was shocking, really. And Chargers fans, you now know that you can at least compete with playoff caliber teams. You've played the Chiefs, and it's a very loaded division outside of the Raiders for those playoff caliber teams. But as we get later in the year, you're getting closer. You got to kind of evaluate. It's a nice little litmus test right before the real deal.
Yeah. You mentioned Chargers fans. I just want to shout out all 4 of them. And we can move on to the Sunday games. Or Saturday, sorry.
That's just wild. Yeah. Saturday, we are playing games on Christmas warm-up for basically how that went. They can't let you play with only 2 days notice, so yeah, we'll do it this way. We had the Chiefs playing the Texans, and in my pick'ems, I kind of said I feel good about how the Texans pass rush will stack up against the O-line, and the ankle that Mahomes would be dealing with. Of course, Mahomes just wrapped that thing up 15 million times and was like, no, I'm good to go. So his mobility wasn't really a question. But on the flip side of that, the Texans' offensive line was something I kind of blanked on in that moment picking the Texans. I was like, oh yeah, no, they're good. Yeah, the offensive line, of course, has had its struggles, and it definitely made C.J. Stroud uncomfortable in the pocket many times throughout that game. And with the Tank Dell injury, it kind of just felt like things were mounting against them. So tough loss for the Texans, the player and the game itself. But the Chiefs win, and expected Chiefs win, because it's hard to not expect them every week. But onto the Saturday night game, if you've got nothing to touch on for the Texans. Then onto the Saturday night game, we got Lamar Jackson, I think, kind of, it was like he did really good. Josh Allen did really good. And it was like, okay, Josh Allen lost, but we're still going to give Josh Allen the nod for MVP over Lamar.
Well, it was against the Giants. Lamar did really well, but it was, a trash team. And Josh Allen did really well. Basically the same performance, but against the top team. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like with how he played this week, for Lamar I'm speaking on, he certainly is putting himself back in that conversation. Of course, he had another oh goodness gracious, it's his 4th on the year. Oh wow, he clearly is an MVP caliber. How can we give the MVP to someone with 4 interceptions? That's ridiculous. That's never happened before.
Hold on, real quick. Sorry. Speaking of interceptions, I want to get this out before I forget it happened. Did you see the anything about Josh Allen's interception after the game?
I did not know.
They showed the stats of the top quarterback and running back from each team or whatever. It was just a little graphic they displayed. And they displayed Drake May's interception. They did not display Josh Allen's interception. So they said Josh Allen had 154 yards, a touchdown. That was his stat line. And Drake May's was 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And it's okay, you could definitely display the interception because you did for Drake May. And they were just, it's erasure of a Josh Allen interception. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, was it an arm punt? Yeah, it was a fucking arm punt. It was 3rd and long. They bombed it to the end zone and overthrew him. But that was just a really funny thing to see. I'm not I don't think there's some conspiracy behind it that it's the MVP biased. The MVP voters they're trying to get you. But I just thought it was really funny.
Pull the wool off of your eyes. They're trying to trick you. Where's my tinfoil hat? They're invading my mind palace. You liked Mind Palace, huh?
Yeah, it got me pretty good. Anywho, back to the Ravens because that's what we were talking about.
Yeah. Do you have anything on them?
I did not watch that game. I didn't watch any of the Saturday games, unfortunately. So, not really.
Then
it was a great showing for Lamar, as most showings have been for him so far. And I feel like, honestly, actually, this is kind of mirroring what we saw last year with the MVP race when it was oh, this person's leading for it. Oh, maybe it's this person. Oh, maybe it's this person. And it was Dak, then Purdy, then Lamar. And when the discussion was about Dak leading the MVP race, he had a no touchdown, 2 interception game. And that was okay, nope, he's out of the picture now. And then Purdy had his 4 interception half or whatever, that crazy game last year. It was against the Ravens. He got super unlucky and there were a couple tipped picks, but either way, it was 4 interceptions. And the next week, it was okay, maybe it's Lamar. His stats are pretty good. The Ravens are a really good team, and he threw for 5 touchdowns and 4 incompletions that week. And it was just kind of solidifying the MVP performance. And I feel that's kind of what we saw, but all bundled up into one week, where it was Josh Allen. He didn't have a bad game, but it wasn't a good game, and it was against a bad team in the Patriots. And obviously, divisional matchup, the defense isn't awful, but it has not been good this year. It has been awful this year, and I think that this was kind of it was last week we were talking about, the MVP race. It's getting closer, but it's Josh Allen is separating himself, and in a single week, Lamar has completely closed that gap. I feel like it's now a toss-up. And in toss-ups, you look at the stats, and Lamar's having a better year. So,
yeah, and then if we want to make it really, really parallel to last season with Brock Purdy, we had Jared Goff, who was in MVP talks for one week, and then he threw 5 ints and won a game, and it was like, what the hell is happening here? So yeah, honestly, it really is quite similar.
They
the way
won
the
that
MVP,
game though.
yeah. The way the MVP race kind of falls throughout the year is very like those last few games are extremely important for the perception for the voters on the award. So
it's recency bias without really being recency bias. Like it's not like we're saying that the person with the strongest week 17 performance or week 18 performance is the MVP, but if you've got two people in the race and one of them puts up 5 touchdowns and one of them puts up 2 and 2 picks, and it's like, okay, maybe we give it to the guy with the 5 touchdown game towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
But we can
intro into the Sundays, kick off with that.
Yeah, we'll get into the Sunday games. We've kind of been discussing the Bills one a little bit with the Ravens, but the Commanders, they are comeback central. They are the comeback team. And that's kind of shocking to me with Cliff Kingsbury as OC, because he's kind of been bad in second halves of seasons, of games, of everything in the past. And so it's kind of odd to see him get now 2 really good end of the game drives together. And I mean, one of them was a Hail Mary that he got against the Bears. And then this one, it was Kenny Pickett. So probably should have won that a little more handedly, but at the same time, it was a hell of a comeback, and Jalen Hurts, I'm sure he'll be back next week. He almost came back in the game, and then the neurotrauma consultant pulled him off to the side, and they were like, "Hey, you can't go." And it wasn't even that crazy of a hit. I feel like I've seen much worse, but do you want to discuss anything about that game and then get into your Lions game?
I was gonna ask, because that was one game I didn't watch and you did. With Kenny Pickett, is it just the same Kenny Pickett we've seen, and does he look any different? Is it more eagle-ified? Is he doing tush pushes?
He's not doing tush pushes. Saquon had a 1-yard touchdown run, so that was crazy to see. He's got a better team around him, so he played a little better. But it's like the Steelers' Kenny Pickett was kind of middle of the pack Kenny Pickett, and this is high end. This is the best we'll see of him, and it wasn't starting caliber. I don't think. I think he's a fine backup. He is a very capable backup, but I don't think he'll ever. Maybe some team will give him a starting shot, but I don't see it.
Yeah, it's probably going to take more than a 1-week concussion kind of workload to impress somebody into that opportunity.
The other thing is, if you're going into a game with Jalen Hurts as your starter, your game plan is the Jalen Hurts game plan. So it's not like they drew up plays that Kenny Pickett would succeed in. They were making Kenny Pickett run the Jalen Hurts plays, which they're not that different of quarterbacks. I feel like ultimately, they're pretty mobile, okay at passing, and one of them is just a little bit higher tier of the same build. But
I'll go ahead and get us into the Lions game. Very convincing win, 34 to 17 over the Bears. The Bears, they started off very slow, very anemic, and then they kind of got a good rhythm going on for the rest of it. So that's how they mustered up 17 whole points. But it's also against our defense, who has to be very blitz heavy. And Caleb Williams is a very maneuverable, mobile guy. So if your blitz doesn't hit, then he's more than likely going to scramble away, pick up some extra yardage, get some play going with either legs or his arm. On the offensive side of the ball, we were pulling out the most wild trick plays against the Chicago Bears, who are 4-10, 4-11 now. That was ridiculous.
It was the Ben Johnson pitch. It was, hey, this is what I can do for you. Hire me. I think is ultimately what it was. That was his.
I imagine it was more because there's the stumble bum, as they called it, I guess, during practice when they were practicing that the fake fumble pass to Laporta, which was a touchdown.
Insane that they asked him if they thought he could actually fumble it and pick him,
which is wild.
Jared's like, maybe not the best idea to put the ball on the ground voluntarily.
And then attempt that, yeah. That was inspired because it happened to the Bears last season against the Packers, And he must have been like, oh, wow, they must really play the fumble really strongly, and they all yell for it, so let's go ahead and do that. So, yeah, it's not so much like, I don't think it's a play we would have pulled out against anybody else unless they showed on tape a propensity to, like, fall for that. But just seeing it happen against a team that is, like it truly was, like, clowning on the Bears.
No, for sure.
A team that's just that down on the year after the expectations they had coming in. Very much just clowning on him with that touchdown pass. But the biggest news out of that game is the fact that we left with no new injured Lions. And we've got a lot of players trending better for next week. Got a lot of players trending better for end of year and playoffs. Hutch is still on pace for that Super Bowl push if we make it past the NFC Championship. So really it's a nice little win, but it was against the Bears and not a lot to put a cherry on top. It's not like we beat the Bills.
Division win's division win.
Yeah,
it is what it is, and that's something to always
helps
be happy
seeding
about
for sure.
From watching Caleb Williams, I guess just to kind of hope to give any Bears fans some solace, did you see the flashes of a generational quarterback prospect? Do you think he'll be like their guy of the future?
I think, as I said, like they started off very slow. It was accuracy issues. It was just really general play calling for the offense there. But then when there was kind of a rhythm given to him and it was, okay, we're down by this much, we are going to start, passing a little bit more, then it really did feel like he's a guy, he's very mobile, he's able to create. So when you have the offensive line play how it has, I think that, yes, his ability to create is very helpful in that. If you give him a good offensive line, I worry that he is still a little panicky when he's in the pocket. So, if his offensive line improves and you kind of take any pressure off his mind of thinking about the pressure, I could see him, very much propelled to be better. But it also could go the inverse, where he keeps that panicky mindset in a stable pocket and creates his own pressure. It's really going to be this offseason and the new coaching that comes in for him that decides where his career will go. As of now, I think he definitely has all of the physical attributes to do that, do everything that they expected of him. It's simply just the scheme that needs to replicate. It needs to match what he can do.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to get a feel for it because I've watched like a Bears game this year. I don't get them very often. It's Texas, so the local games are never Bears games. But yeah, I was just curious. And then to just kind of finally like get the final touch on the Bills Patriots game, it was close. Like it was 21-24, right? Mm-hmm. This was a great showing for the Patriots against a top team in the AFC, and for better or worse, because I don't have my fully formed opinion on this yet, I think Gerard Mayo may have just saved his job. And, picking off Josh Allen, holding him to a pretty mediocre stat line, holding the Bills to 24, like these are all things that speak well to a good defensive-minded head coach. And I think that Patriots fans in general are very quick to bash him because we're used to perfection. And it's been Bill Belichick and perfection for 25 years or 20 years.
20.
Like it's been insane. Like it's an insane run of perfection from the Patriots that we've seen. And obviously with Brady there too, it kind of set unrealistic expectations for what an offense could be. And then the defense was always perfect, even after Brady. So we kind of were coping with the fact that our offense may not always be great because it was truly Brady running the show and him just being great. And then the defense was Bill Belichick. And now that Bill's gone, the defense doesn't look quite as strong. But this is a step in the right direction, and I think Mayo can move and trend upward. I think he's got some of the rookie head coaching mistakes, but again, we were used to perfection for so long that any and all little imperfections stick out like real bad just because of how how we've been watching, and even in the bad years, we've been seeing the defense be extremely good. So any drop in that is like, oh, well, it's Gerard Mayo's fault. He's the coach. He's the defensive guy. Get rid of him. Get him out of here. And I just wanted to kind of get that out there.
Yeah, I think, the as many qualms as you can have with the Bill Belichick being the GM, having all of the control over that, it meant he was able to get guys that he knew he could scheme into his defense. So that's why you saw a lot of those, defensive players. They're going to go, corners are going to go get a bag somewhere else, and they're going to play like crap.
J.C. Jackson.
Kyle Van Noy, I think, left the team like 4 times and always made his way back and played good, and then got a contract somewhere else.
He's good now, though, on the Ravens,
yeah.
right? He's doing fine.
He's playing good. But, that's kind of a late career resurgence after what was a very early on journeyman career for him.
Yeah, I think the biggest example of what you're talking about is Jelani Tavai, because he was pretty mediocre on the Lions, went to the Patriots, was really good. Now he's still on the Patriots, and it's not quite as good. And it's just kind of that testament to Bill and to what he was able to do with a guy who's proven now with 2 different regimes to not be that great of a player, but with Bill was a starting caliber linebacker and on a good defense.
Yeah, it's as much as you want, like, to put there's definitely missteps Bill took with that draft ideology, with the way he acquired players, but on the defensive side of things, he really made it mesh perfectly, being like the one guy who made both decisions. And, you have to kind of have that balance between GM and head coach. And it was easier when he was the one in the same. But we can move off of the Sunday day games and just quickly touch on the Sunday night and Monday night football games. Quite honestly, the Bucs and Cowboys game was very enjoyable to watch. It was a very back and forth game. But it did just feel like the Bucs made a lot of missteps, a lot of pressure allowed, and they tried their best to negate some of that pressure. They constantly were making Micah Parsons kind of backstep, running a lot towards him to ease him off of the pass rush. But when the pass rush got there, the Bucs were fumbling. There were issues just taking the sacks. Late in the game, Baker Mayfield tried to make a play. He made the play, and then Rachaad White had the fumble. Literally, it could have maybe not been called a fumble. It was just snatched from his hands. There was no like, oh, it hit the ground, oh, it's loose. No, it was in his hands, and then it wasn't in his hands. It was in this other guy's. But the Cowboys defense really did show up this game to make sure it was a win. With the Bucs, we've kind of been, we've felt strongly about the Bucs, that they are a good team, that they are the division winner of the South. And, this game is a big moving point for the Bucs to be not so much in that position to kind of just take that division title away from everybody else. And then you probably watched more of the Monday Night Football game than I did. I watched a little bit. I saw the Saints continually not do much, and I was like, cool, I can turn this off.
Yeah, so my sister is a Packers fan, by way of my dad being a Packers fan, and she wanted to watch the game, so we were watching the game, and it was like halfway through the third quarter, and we were like, all right, how many Packers players can you name? And we started writing down Packers players' names just to see how many. That was the vibe of this game. We were just like we were playing tic-tac-toe towards the end of it. Like this was a blowout in all facets. The first shutout of the year was the Saints being scoreless here. Spencer Rattler, maybe not the answer.
Maybe not the franchise guy.
Whoa, but yeah, maybe fell for a reason. Maybe slipped in the draft for a reason. I do think that it's not all his fault, and they were running with no starting running back, no starting receiver, no second receiver, and offensive line issues that they've always had. So I don't think it's all on him, but it was just a masterclass on one side and a disaster class on the other. It was just everything going wrong for the Saints, everything going right for the Packers. Jordan Love looked good as always. The receivers were doing the receiver things. No dominant wide receiver one, but they're still getting open. They're still getting yards. And Josh Jacobs got pulled pretty early on. I think he landed weird and was a little banged up, and so they were just like, we're up 21-0 at this point. Let's just keep you out. And then they went up 34-0, and they're like, yeah, it's probably a good idea to not not play him.
Yeah, it's a strong showing from the Packers, against a not good team. It's that Lamar Jackson game we were talking about, but it's an easy pickup win late in the year. It's not super imperative to their seeding for where they sit, and we'll be getting into the intricacies of that in a little bit. But real quick, we're gonna cover the PickEms recap for the week. So on this week, we both did quite well. But I, of course, did ever so slightly worse with the little places we disagreed. I went 11-5 on the week, and you rounded off at a very nice 12-4. It's up there for where we usually sit. I think your best has been 14. We've had some 13s throughout the years, but yeah, strong.
13-1 is my best showing, but I did have a 14-2 week.
Yeah,
I just consider that 13-1 so damn good. I'm truly disappointed that Jags Raiders did not end in a tie. Like, truly heartbreaking. But Raiders winning, great for the Patriots draft pick. Man, the worst we can pick is 9. Mm-hmm. So if we win out and everything else goes right for every other team, we're picking at 9, and that's great to me.
Yeah. With the 12-4 for you, your lock on the Bills over the Patriots hit. A little closer than you would have thought heading into that one. But for you on the year, that's sitting at 162-78 record overall, 14-2 for your locks. You have been hitting those locks like I was about to say the most outlandish thing. We'll move right past it.
You could say it and I'll cut it out of the video because I'm curious.
You were hitting those locks like a drunk dad on Sunday.
I'm leaving that in the video.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's not bad. We can leave. We can do that. We can get away with that.
All right. And then onto my side, as I said, I'm 11-5 on the week. I'm 153-87 on the year, 10-6 on my locks. So I would need to win out on my locks in order to match your lock record from last year. So that's my metric I'm aiming for right now. Is I don't want to be worse than you were last year.
Because you were better than I was last year.
Yes.
Last year.
So
this. Go ahead.
What?
No. I was going to say you don't want to have the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I don't want to come out with the worst stats ever. But, I'm looking good overall lock-wise. It's just, or overall picks-wise, to competing with the worst of the worst. But that locks, I need to really need to hit some home runs right here at the end here.
I've really stepped up my game on the picks side of things from this last season to this season. 4 more correct picks, and I have matched my correct total from last year, and we have 2 weeks to go.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
You're
not gonna lie.
I'm about keeping pace. I would need to have pretty good showings here towards the end, but I'm about keeping pace, which I'm okay with, given I think I researched a lot more closely certain matchups last year, and this year I'm kind of I go off the knowledge I have of the team, not so much like, I don't know much about this team, let me look into it closer. So I'm glad that my intuition is kind of winning some of these for me. But that will carry us on to our next couple of segments. So with the weird week, we aren't going to be doing a segment video, so we've just got the segments in the podcast itself. And we've got 2 of them. One's pretty short and sweet because there's minimal movement on it, and that is the playoff picture. Just some teams that are, right on that bubble could make it if everything fell the right way. But I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with that as we look at the AFC picture, which it's pretty much locked up. The Broncos are the 7th seed, and they're at a 76% chance of making the playoffs. So, if they lose, maybe the Colts, the Dolphins. Actually, they would be playing the Bengals, so the Bengals could beat them and then have so many different things fall in their favor and somehow squeak into the playoffs right at the end after the pretty horrible start they had to the year, which is their forte, but this was definitely more so than most for their poor performances. And then, it's pretty much that one. the Chargers have very slim. A lot of things need to fall for them to miss playoffs, especially with that last win. So they're sitting pretty. The AFC is nearly locked up, and we could see this week end with it being completely locked up if we see wins from the Broncos and the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers and Broncos wins means they're in, and that means we have the AFC playoff picture. There were a couple scenarios where we could have seen the complete AFC playoff picture like a week or two ago, and that was like it was like, hey, this is the earliest this can happen, like basically ever. So it was kind of hopeful for that, but the NFC side of things is a little bit more locked up on the wild card matchups or on the wild card seating, but not so much on the actual division leaders. So we've got the Lions, Eagles, Vikings, Packers, and basically Commanders have clinched. The Commanders are at 94% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, it only drops to an 85% chance. So like they're pretty much in. And then the 3 and 4 seed Rams and Falcons. The Rams 86% chance to make the playoffs. If they win, it's more than a 99% chance. So they're technically not clinched with a win, but basically clinched with a win. And then Falcons are 8-7 leading the division. So that division is completely up for grabs. It is a tie with the Bucks at 8-7. So it is just completely up to how the rest of the NFC South matchups play out from here on out.
Yeah, and then for the 1 seed, because I didn't touch on it much for the AFC, but the 1 seed, it's almost guaranteed a lock for the Chiefs, that 91%. The Bills are the only ones contending with that, with, of course, the other 9% chance of making that 1 seed.
Chiefs would have to lose out, Bills would have to win out, and the Bills would have
plus
to tie
other
record.
Games. Yeah.
Well, no, because they tie record and Bills have
Oh,
to
true,
tie record.
because it's the...
Head-to-head.
It goes head-to-head before it goes to conference record, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah. So, and then on the flip side for the NFC, the Lions, 72% on that 1 seed. The Eagles losing really was a huge boost to the percentage for the Lions. And the Vikings now become a very, very important couple of weeks here for the Vikings, because if the Vikings are to win next week, then they just need to win on week 18 versus the Lions, and they will be the NFC winners, the number 1 seed of the NFC, and the division winner. However, if the Vikings do lose this week against the Packers, that then clinches the number 1 seed for the Lions heading into week 18. So, go Pack, go. We really could have had like a 3-way race here, but the Eagles dropping that one to the Commanders really boosted the Commanders, locked them into this. And, if the playoffs were to fall exactly as is, you'd have the Commanders playing the Eagles in playoffs. That's pretty tight.
Pretty storybook
matchup there. And then you've got the Vikings, Packers both making the wild card with a very strong NFC showing from this season. As it was for the AFC West as well, with the Chiefs, Broncos, and the Chargers. But
yeah, if this plays out as it currently sits with the 1 seed Lions, 2 Eagles, 3 Rams, 4 Falcons, I think that the NFC North will have 3 teams in the divisional round. Like, I don't think that's an outlandish thing to say, because the Packers would be playing the Rams and the Vikings would be playing the Falcons, and I think those are very winnable games for the Packers and the Vikings. Like,
yeah,
they would be 1 seeds in both of those divisions and probably have it locked up already if they were in those divisions. So it's like NFC runs through the North, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But with the playoff picture kind of outlined for the little bit of changes we could see, the division winners that could switch sides, we are entering our kind of recap. We're reviewing our bold predictions we had from the preseason. We both got together and made, some pretty big lists. We got the division winners. We got the award winners. We even made some bold predictions, just, not really based on anything particular. But then we also coupled it with some breakout players who we presumed, with given situations heading into their new year, that they could see very good seasons. And I'm
think
gonna let you kick this off.
Yeah, I was going to actually just say I think we should focus in on the actual bold predictions and then maybe briefly touch on the other sections because those are I mean obviously not solidified, but
Closer to. Yep.
yeah. But for my I'll start with my first bold prediction, which was that Stephon Diggs would be the wide receiver 4 in Houston. And while at its core what I meant was incorrect, it is still technically possible because he's done for the year and he is currently sitting as their third leading receiver with Dalton Schultz 14 yards behind him. So Dalton Schultz catches 2 passes.
He's
next
a tight
week.
end. He's not a wide. You gotta go down a rung. You can't
Wide
compare him
receiver
to.
shoot.
You said wide
all
receiver.
right, John
You didn't say receiving
Mechie.
league.
John Mechie. John Mechie only needs 314 yards in the last 2 weeks. And
That's possible, man.
It's
I believe.
anything's possible. Right? Yeah. Technically, could happen. Not correct though. I was very incorrect, assuming Diggs would be washed up and not that great in Houston.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and I'll bounce with your technically maybe not actually that true bold prediction to my most correct one. I pretty proud of this one. With the Josh Allen becomes safe with the ball, lowers his interception percentage. Now he's had his spurts, he's had his little stretches where he's got like an inch a game basically, but overall on the season he did very much improve his interception percentage from where it had been at, from what had been a very kind of turnover prone, not really through fumbles, but through the air quarterback was Josh Allen post Daboll. So I think that this one is definitely my biggest hit on the year, and I'm gonna really use this one hitting to nullify some of the ones I have that are absolutely atrocious down the line here.
Yeah, no, this you were spot on with that, and I saw that and I was like, "What the hell do you mean, sir?" Like, that's his nature. That is what he does. That's not changing. But yeah, you were spot on. I think that the comfortability that he's developed with his receiving room now has kind of led to those interceptions rising again, because I think early on it may have been more of like, I don't know who I can 100% trust to throw the ball up to, and I'm going to keep it pretty safe, do some more dink and dunk. Khalil Shakir's great after the catch, so let's just get him some drags and let's play a safer game, because we don't have those alphas in the room yet. But I will transition from your most correct into my spot on bingo most correct one, which was that the 49ers would lose the division. And not only was I correct that they would not win the division, I believe they're at the bottom of the division. They are losing the division. All I meant was that they wouldn't be the top of the AF or the NFC West. That's all I meant by that. But with my wording, it is pretty spot on, because maybe they're tied with the Cardinals, but
I think they are tied
because the
technically
Cardinals
with the Cardinals.
just dropped this one against the Panthers. But the Seahawks are doing better. The Rams are doing better. I know that much. And they are out of the playoff race, I believe.
Ooh, actually, the Cardinals are ahead by 1 win. So, where it stands currently, you would be 100% correct, but then losing the division title and overall.
Yeah, I'll go on to my next one because I have 7, you have 5, so I'll have to double up some of these times. This one, incorrect. I said that the Raiders or Giants would go winless. I was correct in predicting the 2 worst teams in the league. However,
it was
nobody
bold.
went winless. It was bold to say that one of the 2 teams would go winless, because we haven't had a winless team since 2017. Right?
16?
Browns? 16? Whatever the Browns did.
Maybe it's
18 was Mayfield.
Okay.
18 draft, I think. Anywho, y'all get the picture. Yeah.
Y'all know what I mean.
I did predict the 2 worst teams in the league pretty accurately, pretty spot on. Obviously, Raiders are not technically the second overall pick, so you can't say that they're the second worst team, but they're the second worst team.
All right. And then for me, I'll go, you touched on the NFC West. I'll go ahead and I'll land there before I get into my truly atrocious ones. So I had Byron Young really kind of coming into his own for the Rams, despite the absence of AD, and I had him hitting double-digit sacks. I recall being pretty high on it, so I was saying he was probably going to be sitting around the 15 sack mark. if I were to, be more specific than just double digit. That's incorrect. He's sitting at 6 on the year. I do believe, has had a good year up to this point. It's just kind of been more of a committee for the D-line. It's not so much one guy is going to be the main contributor there. And I think, it's half wrong, half right. But my sentiment behind it was correct. He's coming into his own as a player on the team, but the statement I made itself was wrong with the landmark I gave him to hit.
Yeah. Then my next one was also incorrect. I had the Patriots splitting all their division matchups. They lost both to the Dolphins. They lost both to the Bills. Or did they play the Bills again? I don't know.
You've played twice.
Yeah, but they beat the Jets once.
Woohoo!
So, yippee! Raise the banner, guys. We beat the Jets. Did you want me to get into another one and then go one for one, or do you want me to? Do you want?
Honestly, you pile up. I'll double up at the end, and then we'll both end with one. So however that works out.
Okay. So, I had Justin Jefferson leading all the wide receivers in yards. He did have a great year, but I believe Jamar Chase is currently leading all wide receivers in yards, catches, and touchdowns. So he's currently got the Triple Crown.
Yep.
And I don't believe that would be going anywhere anytime soon. So I'll go ahead and call that one incorrect. But good year from the Jetman. And that was such a bold prediction because we thought Sam Darnold was going to be dog shit. We thought he was going to be awful. That's why it was bold. Okay, I was looking at this list
because
and I was
you're
like,
thinking preseason Sam Darnold, like
yeah. No, I was looking at this list and I was like, was Justin Jefferson being the best receiver like a bold prediction? But I forgot. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Sentiment behind it again. Now that I'm putting my mind back in the preseason state, yeah, the sentiment behind that was pretty correct. Of his production won't dip. But it was not a sentiment of Sam Darnold will be good. It was just a sentiment of Jet is as good regardless of QB play.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and I'll pile on with my runs that were absolutely wrong. The Eagles going under 500. Yeah, that didn't happen. I think, with that, it was more so the dysfunction and the things we saw during preseason, the things we were hearing during the offseason that, really fueled that take. I do, we did our video. I definitely believe in the coaching staff, the coordinators wise. It was just kind of, seemed kind of drama filled, and it's been drama filled, but not drama filled enough to lead to losses. And then, yeah, I'll go ahead and knock this one out as well. Will Levis throws for 4,000 yards. It would have been a bold prediction, and it definitely is, seeing as how he didn't even eclipse 2,000 yards.
Benched twice.
Yep, benched twice, benched multiple times on the year. I've spoken on it throughout the year, but I definitely thought Brian Callahan was going to come in and try to use him. But it certainly seemed that it's more so a bridge year, and he's going to get a quarterback he more so wants to be a part of his franchise.
Yeah. Then I'll go with one that I was pretty off base with. I thought that this was going to be another year of no running back hitting 1,500 yards, because in 2019 to 2022 we saw 1,500 yard rushers all of those years, and then last year we didn't. And so I was like, I think this is the direction the league is going, and that's how this is going to play out. Saquon is on pace for over 2,000, so a little bit incorrect there. Derrick Henry's over 1,500 right now. So, yeah.
2 weeks to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a great prediction, not a great look from me, but it's okay. We'll get him next year.
Yeah. And then the last one I made was Jameson Williams beating the bust allegations after his very much on and off the field issues, and that he was going to reel in a stat line of 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Currently, he's 110 yards short of that. He's 3 touchdowns shy, so the touchdown margin he isn't exactly hitting. But, considering I made this thinking he was going to have a full season of playtime, and he actually ended up getting suspended once again this year, I think that it's close enough where I can give myself the little half point for it, especially if he hits the 1,000 mark.
He will.
And just ends up shy.
his scrimmage yards as well are at over 950 because he has a couple rushing attempts. So, you know, not that I think that was pretty on base. I think the touchdowns obviously are pretty unpredictable. You don't know who's going to score in any given game. So I consider that to be, yes, he beat the bust allegations. This could be his stat line. Like, he's not far off of 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's pretty close, and I think did beat the bust allegations. I think he is more of a burner than a refined route runner and refined technical receiver, but sometimes that's all you need when your wide receiver one is not a burner, notably, and is a refined technical receiver, notably. Yeah. So I think you kind of need that nice balance, and you've got that there.
Yeah, with the year he had, he's definitely opened up his route tree more, and he's catching more with his hands and not his body, which was, a primary thing, which was his issues early on. So he's beaten the bust allegations. He's had a good year. We can leave it at that. And then I think you've got one more to cover.
Yeah, I'll call this one partially correct. I had the Giants making a midseason QB trade. They actually just cut Daniel Jones. They didn't make a trade. They didn't replace him with anybody. They just got rid of him. They were just like, you know what? Enough is enough. We're not bringing anybody else in. We'll take, whoever first overall, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, whatever. We'll fix it in the offseason. But yeah, I thought they would be tired of Daniel Jones and they would make a move for a Justin Fields or for a, Joe Flacco, something like that. They'd bring somebody else in, and it did not happen. But they did make a change. Pretty notable change. For sure. And then, do you have any breakout players you want to specifically touch on? Because I don't really.
I want to. I'll quickly go over all of mine, just the ways that they didn't break out, because none of them did. James Cook was the closest to breaking out, but it's technically a regression from his last season, unless he has like some absolute phenomenal end of year stats. Or maybe not actually. He might only be like 300 yards off of those. I'm thinking of his numbers from a few weeks ago, but with Will Levis. Trash, garbage, bench twice, not a breakout year whatsoever. Drake London, this was kind of with the expectation Kirk would be good.
No, I would consider Drake London to have a not necessarily like a huge breakout year, but he'll have 1,000 yards. He's got 7 touchdowns, so he has more touchdowns this year than he had in years 1 and 2 combined. And already this year has more yards than he had last year. He has almost 20 more receptions than he had last year. Like he is doing much better. And that's with the poor play of Kirk Cousins. So I would consider this a breakout for him.
I guess, considering the situation, we considered the situation and thought this is going to be why it's a breakout. And now it's kind of like the inverse. Like he's breaking out despite the situation. So there's that.
Hey, who knows? Maybe he'll hit like 12 or 1,300 yards with Penix launching it the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And then you want to get into...
Yeah, my last one is Hollywood Brown. He's been on IR all of the year. He made his first start. So hard to have a breakout season when your season's gone. But you can cover yours here as well.
Yeah, I had Kyle Pitts and Evan Engram. Kyle Pitts is not good. He was a bust. I don't think he'll get a second contract in Atlanta. I don't think he'll garner a lot of interest. I think he'll just be the next Evan Engram. When Engram went to the Giants, he had his drop issues. He got not released, but he didn't get re-signed there, hit free agency, went to the Jaguars, was okay. Like he was a middle of the pack tight end, maybe upper middle of the pack, but same thing with Evan Engram, not a breakout year for him. He had a good year, but it was basically the same as last year. Then I was pretty high on the Cardinals, so I had the human Dortch having a breakout year this year. Notably did not. The next one I had was John Mechie. I thought that, Diggs wouldn't be great in Houston, and I think Xavier Hutchinson got more opportunities than Mechie did when Nico Collins was hurt, when Diggs went down. I'm pretty sure Mechie was not the guy. And I think I had predicted that Mechie would get traded to the Panthers and then have a breakout there, or would look good on the Texans and then get traded to the Panthers, because I was like, Bryce Young, John Mechie, but pretty off base there. And then the last one, I also had James Cook, and you were just saying, not a huge yardage breakout year, but he did have a massive jump in scoring. So he's scoring a lot more touchdowns. And he I don't know if he's getting less touches, but definitely less snaps than last year. Because last year it was like James Cook, and that was the backfield. This year it's Ty Johnson, it's Ray Davis coming in, and they're taking substantial snaps from James Cook. So to put up essentially the same yardage stat line, maybe a little bit worse, with a lot more touchdowns on a lot fewer snaps, I think is a pretty good look. Not necessarily like a top 5 running back season, and he's top 5 running back breakout, but definitely better than last year.
Yeah. And then I think, that wraps up all of the player breakouts, all of our bold predictions, but we did also do our division leaders and our awards predictions. Do you want to kind of defer this, maybe to make this a quick little segment on week 18, cover it now? Because some of the things aren't locked up.
Division leaders aren't locked up, and we can do awards predictions when the awards show happens. We can talk about it then. Now, we can get into PickEms and discuss the slate of this week's games. We've got... before this podcast is being released, we've got 2 games. We've got Chiefs Steelers and Ravens Texans. These are both Wednesday Christmas games. I'll be going ahead and throwing up our predictions on Twitter, just to say that, hey, we're doing this before the games happened, even though the video is coming out after. But kicking things off, Chiefs at Steelers. I'm going to take the Chiefs. This is the Black Magic Bowl. And I think that anything can happen, and we may see 17 players get injured, but I think the Chiefs will still crawl their way to a victory there.
Yeah, if 17 players get injured, Taylor Swift's putting on the pads, and she's going to go win the game-winning touchdown, all right? She's going to moss somebody for that. I've got the Chiefs in this one as well, and that is my genuine prediction for the end of the game. Then we've got the Ravens at Texans. With this one, I definitely am leaning the Ravens here. The Texans, they got banged up. They're running into more and more injuries and issues as the year goes on, and it really just feels like it's not going to be their year because of those. So with the Ravens, I'm taking them here.
Yeah, I am agreeing with you there. Definitely Ravens over Texans. The Texans could put up a good fight. I think they're injuries suck, but they've got Nico Collins back. They've got a couple of the offensive linemen, I believe, coming back. So maybe we'll see some fight out of them. But I think the Ravens know they need to win this, especially if the Steelers lose earlier in the day, because then they kind of not solidify themselves as division winners, but they've definitely put themselves in the right position. But then we get into Thursday night football, Seahawks at Bears.
How fun.
Yeah. I've got the Seahawks in this one. I don't think I can believe in the Bears anymore. Despite the Seahawks not being great, I don't know if the Bears can move the ball in the first half period. So I don't know how I can pick them in a game if I'm not confident about them picking up yards.
Yeah, the Seahawks tight game with the Vikings. There is a very big disparity between the Vikings and the Bears, so Seahawks here is a easy pickup here as well. And then we've got the Chargers at the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots, they've got some fight. They've definitely shown that. But why risk your picks at this point in the game? And with it, the Chargers also, are looking to not so much like solidify that they make the playoffs, but more so solidify the seeding over the Broncos. So, yeah, they're going to try to get some more wins here at the end. They're going to be going full throttle. Patriots are probably going to try to ease up off the gas with draft looming. So I've got the Chargers.
Yeah, I've also got the Chargers, and I'm actually I'm changing my decision on the lock to be this one. Lock in the Chargers over the Patriots. Initially, I had a different team, and I will mention it when we get there, but I feel much more confidently about this one, and I just went through and made sure that I had not locked the Chargers in the past. Next up, we got the Broncos at the Bengals. I don't know what to think about this one. I'm going to take the Broncos in this one, though. It means more for them, I think, to pick this one up with the playoffs on the line. And the Bengals, they're still in it. They need to play well. I just can't trust their defense to do anything.
That's very fair. With the defense versus offense matchup here, strong offense, strong defense. Less strong offense, but more mediocre, more middle of the pack to a very poor defense. So I definitely can see you leaning with the Broncos. My heart says Bengals, so I'm picking with my heart. going Bengals here. Just like Triple Crown. Like I think the offense is going to do enough to outpace the very poor defense that they do have. Then we've got the Cardinals at the Rams. I've got the Rams picking this one up. I mean, SoFi isn't so much of a home field advantage, so I very much could see it going to the Cardinals. But the Rams, they've been kind of up and down, but I still have the belief in them to pull off wins despite, however they managed to do it. So I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Yeah, I've also got the Rams. It's divisional matchup. They need to win to get to clinch the division, and I think they will do so. Then this was the other game that I had my lock on, which was Colts Giants, and I had my lock on the Colts, but I don't feel quite as confidently about that. And my Patriots heart really hopes the Giants upset in this one and give us the first overall pick.
I can definitely agree with that. I'm agreeing with it to the tune of a lock on the week. Definitely feel strongly about the Colts, especially after that performance from Jonathan Taylor. And Giants gonna giant. They are down horrendous, I think is the term the kids are using these days. Yeah.
Speaking of Jonathan Taylor, is he our franchise tag player of the week? Is he?
Great question.
I'll say he is.
Let's see. It's him and it's like Jaden Daniels, and I don't know exactly Jaden
JD
Daniels.
threw picks. He threw picks.
Ooh, see? I didn't know that. So
2 of them, I think. So, yeah, it's Jonathan Taylor, franchise tag player of the week. I'll be making that graphic after this recording.
Okay. And then we've got the Jets at the Bills. Haha, Bills. I mean, yeah.
If I didn't lock the Bills over the Patriots last week, I'd be locking them this week over the Jets. Pray for an upset just so that the Jets get another win, so that they get a worse draft pick. But, it's... I think that the Bills are probably going to win out, and they'll be a tough team to face come playoff time. Then we get into an AFC South matchup: Titans at Jaguars. I've got the Titans in this one. Really hard to pick between these two teams. They played a couple weeks back, and it was equally difficult to pick then. But yeah, I can't say that I can be confident in the Jaguars with Mac Jones at quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going with the Titans as well. Strictly defense versus defense. Titans, I think, wash the Jaguars, so going with the Titans there. All right, and then next up, we've got the Packers visiting the Vikings for our franchise-tagged game of the week. This one is, two very big powerhouses of the NFC. This could be a rematch we see in just a few weeks from now in the playoffs. And with this one, it's a lot on the line for the Vikings. They need to win this to have the eligibility for the number 1 seed. And I think that they will pull it off. I think that they're playing at home. They have an electric home environment. And, the Packers are going to have to deal with that. If this was at Lambeau, I would flip it because the NFC North definitely has strong home field advantages when the teams are playing good. So I think the Vikings, with what we've seen from Sam Darnold, and, albeit the Packers, we've seen Jordan Love kind of peel back from his Favre-ness, but it could always resurge, especially against a defense that is as dominant as the Vikings defense. So I've got the Vikings here.
I'm going to disagree with you. I've got the Packers. I think they are the better. I don't know if they're the better team, but when I said that I thought they were the second best team in the league, I meant it. They went toe-to-toe with the Lions. I don't really remember the Vikings-Lions games, but I don't feel like went as toe-to-toe as the Packers did.
The Viking-Lions game was decided by 2 points. The other game.
I am wrong. But either way, I like the Packers a little bit more. I think Sam Darnold has shown some issues this season. Not as many as we saw with the Jets, but still a couple places that need to be polished and buffed out. And I think there's more opportunities for the Packers to sneak in, and the Vikings just went toe-to-toe with the Seahawks. And I think that the Packers are unequivocally better than the Seahawks. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm basing my opinion in. But yeah, this, like you said, game of the week, great game, NFC North matchup. The home field advantage is huge. I feel like it's bigger in the NFC North, even without a team being good. Like I feel like the NFC North rivalries and the fans are just more passionate. Like I'm thinking because we were talking about LA not being a home field advantage for the
Yeah.
Rams because of how many people sell their tickets and how many just like people with money want to go to the games. They don't care what team wins.
Yeah.
But I think that even more than a team that has moved and that left its faithful fan base, the Rams in St. Louis and the Cardinals, or Chargers, sorry. The Chargers, in San Diego, they left. The Raiders in Oakland, like
Oakland.
more than those teams, my mind went to like the Cardinals. They've never left Glendale. They don't have anywhere close to as strong of a fan base as any of the NFC North teams. Even the Bears in a bad year don't have worse fans than the Cardinals. So that was just a little anecdote that my brain went to. So I definitely see your point of the Vikings home fans being a big factor, but still going Packers. Then we get into our back-to-back game and shit show of the week. We got the Raiders at the Saints. I have the Raiders picking up another one and just really ruining their draft capital. The Saints just got skunked. They just put up none. I don't know if there's coming back from that. The Raiders, they played a pretty bad Jaguars team last week, but they beat them, and I think the Jags could possibly beat the Saints. So I'll take the Raiders in this one.
Yeah, Raiders are on. They're really cleaning up off the bottom of the barrel here, and I think the Saints just showed that they can actually play the worst football we've seen all year. So I'm not going to be ever so on board with picking them to pick up a win with the last few games here. So I've also got the Raiders winning this one, and then. Keeping with that NFC South, we've got the Panthers at Buccaneers. This one is, very important given the, close state of that division and the title for the Bucs and the Falcons. But as much as I like the Panthers, as much as I've been really hoping to see Bryce Young shine, I fear he may not against the Bucs. Something about that bounce back game, the need to win it mentality that the Bucs are sure to come into this with. I think that's kind of gonna cause the divide here, and I'm gonna lean with the Bucs here.
Yeah, I'm also leaning Bucs pretty heavily over Panthers. I think the Panthers have shown to be better than they were at the start of the season. They beat the Cardinals in overtime last week, but the Bucs need a bounce back win. They need to clinch that division. They need to have a strong showing, and I think they'll come to play. Then we got Dolphins at Browns. This is another not great game. Like this one's not going to be great to watch. I think the Dolphins pull it out ultimately. I don't think they're as bad as the Browns, but they have not shown me much these past couple weeks. They beat the 49ers. They had a strong enough showing there, but it's not that great.
Yeah, I'll match you with the Dolphins pick there. And then we've got the Cowboys at Eagles. The Cowboys, they did surprise me, and the Eagles are more likely going to have Jalen Hurts than not have Jalen Hurts. So I'm not going to really anticipate them losing because they're not going to be playing with their, main quarterback. So I'm going to go Eagles here, but I just want them to lose because F them.
Yeah, I would take a Kenny Pickett-led Eagles over the Cowboys, so I'll be going with the Eagles here. If I hadn't used the Eagles on a lock a couple weeks back in week 14, then I would be using them here. Definitely think that if they don't get Hurts, there will be a heavy Saquon focus, and I don't know if the Cowboys can keep up with that.
Yeah, that's very true.
O-line to D-line, I don't know that they've got the win there. Then we got Falcons at Commanders. I'm going to go Commanders here. They just pulled off I don't know if you can even call it an upset, but they just beat the Eagles at home on the last second drive. And I don't feel very confidently in the Falcons. I think their weapons are, Kyle Pitts specifically is not great, and their other receiving options, maybe some question marks. Michael Penix had a good debut, but it was against the
Giants, right?
Giants. Yeah. It was against the Giants. I don't count that. So I think the Commanders definitely have all it takes to pull off the upset there, or the win, pull out the win there.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, the Falcons, I don't know what they are with Penix, but I do know that I trust the Commanders' defense to stop the little bit that the Falcons have managed to muster up on offense throughout the year. And, if not like stop outright, just, keep pace for the Commanders' offense to kind of figure things out at the end of games, have they've made themselves a real penchant for, and win it in the end. So I've got the Commanders. And then we've got the Lions at 49ers. This one, I'm going Lions, shocker, shocker, but it's definitely a very, this is, despite Trent Williams, this is probably one of the healthier games the Niners have had for most of the year. They're playing at home. They're playing against the team that they faced in the NFC Championship last year. So there's definitely some storylines going on. And, I think that the Lions going to town and winning this one is big for the, revenge game aspect of it. So it's got a little bit more intrigue than just your average little game late in the year with a playoff team and a non-playoff team.
Yeah, I'm still going Lions in this one as well. I do agree that there's a chance the 49ers upset, but you say they're healthier than they have been, but McCaffrey done for the year, Jordan Mason done for the year, Ayuk done for the year, no Trent Williams if he doesn't go. So
I didn't know. I forgot about the Jordan Mason. I forgot about the backup.
Yeah, both of them got
backs.
placed on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
Garendo's season. Garendo's the MVP. I could three
Push that
shorts,
into-
3 shorts on Isaac Garendo being amazing. Oh my God, I can only dream of it. He missed this past week, so it is Garn. It's unfortunate. Debo had a good game though. That was insane to see. I didn't know he could still do that.
Who knew?
But yeah, still going Lions there pretty handedly. I don't think the 49ers have what it takes to beat a quality team.
Agreed.
I think that just about does it for us today. Do you have any words of wisdom or wisdom to
I knew you were
lead for
gonna
these people
fucking say it.
to lead or live their lives by?
I am not the Saints interim head coach, so I do not have the Riz for you.
Sister said the same
So,
thing last night. She was like, why is his last name so funny? And I was like, I don't know. Why are you asking me that?
Anywho, yeah, check us out. We're on most podcasting platforms as of now. We are gonna keep adding on to that, and hit subscribe. Get the most content here on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe here, and check us out on any other platforms. You got anything to add?
Yeah, season's winding down. It is always a sadder time of year when the regular season is coming to an end. But do not worry. Do not be afraid. For we have playoff content, off-season content, a lot of off-season content. Did I mention off-season content? Oh my God, we're going to have off-season content after the podcast is over, after the season is done. So just a little look ahead. We're going to have podcast episodes every single week. Following the Super Bowl will be our final episode, and then it's pedal to the metal, full sprint to off-season content. We're going to have a lot of good stuff, so definitely subscribe, stick around. I know I'm really excited to start making that kind of content.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a different feel. It definitely feels more in-depth, more cohesive than some of the podcast stuff.
Yeah, a bit more personal. It feels like too when you're addressing a fan base, addressing concerns in a team, and you get a little bit more feedback in that off season. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And if you do want to help us, if you're still watching this, if you want to give us some insight onto whoever your team is, give us what you think they need most in the draft and in free agency, just so we have as many voices in our heads as we can get to
we get those grassroots
right
sources going.
Yeah. I know last year there were some Seahawks fans that were saying they really need interior O-line, and I was like, interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, they do, real bad. They still do. But yeah, this is long outro, but I think that covers just about everything that we've got going forward. And with that, deuces.